The biggest lie you've told yourself is that you're not ready yet. You don't always pay for your mistakes immediately. Sometimes you pay when you can least afford it. One day, you'll realize that every dream you had died because you chose comfort over effort, and there will be no one to blame but yourself. That regret will follow you forever. You're not everything you could be, and you know it. More requires a version of you that handles pressure without folding. You're asking for the crown, but you're still crying about the weight. The man who loves walking will walk further than the man who loves the destination. You must determine where you are going in your life, because you cannot get there unless you move in that direction. Random wandering will not move you forward. It will instead disappoint and frustrate you, and make you anxious and unhappy, and hard to get along with. Most routines aren't designed to move you forward. They're designed to keep things predictable. Stay away from people who act like a victim in the problems they created. If you don't upgrade who you are, the life you're chasing will eventually crush you. Things don't fall into place. People rebuild them. Life doesn't fix itself because you hope. You fix it by choosing, acting, and walking away from what doesn't serve you. If you're not willing to be misunderstood for long periods of time, you can't do anything truly new. You don't need to be understood by everyone. You need to understand yourself enough to stop chasing validation. Some people don't want a solution. They want you to stay in the problem with them. You gave more than you should have, and they still made you feel like it wasn't enough. You don't lose people by telling the truth. You lose them by revealing it. Don't confuse someone's kindness with their loyalty. They can be generous and still betray you. Some people don't cross your boundaries loudly. They slowly move them until you forget where they were. You will not heal by going back to what broke you. You need to accept that it won't be different. People don't change under pressure. They reveal their incentives. Learn the difference between being patient and wasting your time. Time doesn't fix bad decisions. It compounds them. Time heals nothing unless you work on yourself. Maybe you don't exist in the future you're so worried about. Strong people have a strong sense of self-worth and self-awareness. They don't need the approval of others. The more we value things outside our control, the less control we have. Notice that opportunity lurks where responsibility has been abdicated. Life becomes much easier when you learn to accept apologies you never received. You can clutch the past so tightly to your chest that it leaves your arms too full to embrace the present. More important than the ability to pick the right one is the strength to walk away from the wrong one. There's no greater waste of time than justifying your actions to people who have a life you don't want to live. Saying no is often the best kindness to yourself. You define yourself to others by the behavior that you tolerate. Develop a willingness to be disliked. This will grant you the freedom to do what needs to be done, even if it's unpopular. Extraordinary results come from repeating ordinary actions over an inordinate amount of time. You can choose the game you play, but not its rules. We cannot live happily wishing the world followed the rules we are comfortable with. Live in reality as it is, not as you wish it was. You stop explaining yourself when you realize people only understand from their level of perception. A man always has two reasons for doing anything: a good reason and the real reason. If you can't understand why someone is doing something, look at the consequences of their actions, whatever they might be, and then infer the motivations from their consequences. Characterize people by their actions, and you will never be fooled by their words. Learn to see people for what they are, not what you want them to be. There is only one thing more painful than learning from experience, and that is not learning from experience. A person must be old enough to recognize their mistakes, smart enough to benefit from them, and strong enough to correct them. You'll learn nothing from life if you think you're right all the time. The calmer you are, the clearer you think. Just because a thought got your attention doesn't mean it deserves your attention. You aren't always responsible for the first thought you have, but you are responsible for the second one. A calm life is built by boring decisions repeated every day. Quitting your worst habit will change your life faster than starting your best habit. Most people don't fail. They hesitate until the opportunity disappears. You'll never feel ready, because ready isn't a feeling, it's a decision. It's better to regret what you did than what you were too scared to try. The chief danger in life is that you may take too many precautions. If you're worried about the cost of going for it, you should see the price of staying exactly where you are. The cold water doesn't get warmer if you jump late. Better to admit you walked through the wrong door than spend your life in the wrong room. sometimes the right path is not the easiest one. If your income depends entirely on your time, you are one problem away from losing everything. The price of anything is the amount of life you exchange for it. Nothing will hold you back like the weight of what you are avoiding. The easiest way to ruin your life is to ignore small problems for too long. The longer you avoid a truth, the more power it has over your decisions. What you call stability is often just a life you stopped questioning. Most people don't choose a direction. They just keep saying yes until their life is no longer theirs. If you can't walk away from your life for a few months without everything collapsing, you don't own it. It owns you. It's not that you don't have time. It's that your time is already committed to things you never chose. You don't drift into a better life. You drift into whatever you tolerate daily. If you only change when life forces you to, you will always arrive too late to avoid consequences. You don't need more self-belief. You need proof from your own actions that you can trust yourself. You can spend half your life trying to become someone your younger self needed, and still ignore who you actually are right now. You can forgive someone and still be destroyed by the version of yourself that stayed too long. If you don't define your standards, people will define them lower for you. You can spend your whole life being busy and still achieve nothing. Movement is not progress. You can keep blaming your past, your parents, your circumstances. At some point, that story becomes the reason you never move forward. You can be smart enough to see your own problems clearly, and still weak enough to keep choosing them. Some decisions don't ruin your life immediately. They quietly remove options from your future until you notice you don't have many left. You can waste years preparing for something you're actually afraid to start. The most expensive mistake isn't choosing the wrong path. It's staying on it just because you've already invested years. You can outwork your problems for years and still avoid the one decision that would actually change everything. You don't need a better plan. You need to stop breaking the one you already have. Every time you choose comfort over growth, you vote for a weaker version of yourself. You can't build a strong future on habits you're too weak to control today. You're not tired. You're undisciplined. There's a difference, and your life depends on which one you admit. You don't lack potential. You lack consistency long enough to prove it. You don't need more motivation. You need fewer distractions. The longer you wait to take yourself seriously, the longer everyone else will too. Your life doesn't change when you learn something new. It changes when you act on what you already know. If you keep choosing what's easy now, you're choosing a harder life later, just delayed. You don't ruin your potential in one big decision. You ruin it in small daily agreements with things you know are wrong for you. The scariest thing isn't failing. It's realizing you stayed comfortable long enough to become average. You can keep telling yourself this is temporary. Eventually, it becomes your entire life. At some point, you have to face the truth. No one is holding you back as effectively as your own tolerance for what you know is wrong. If you don't learn how to be alone, you'll keep choosing people who cost you your future just to avoid your present. You can spend years building a life that looks right from the outside, then one day realize you never actually chose it. The moment you start understanding someone who repeatedly disrespects you, you begin negotiating your own dignity. If you keep waiting until you feel ready, you'll die with plans instead of results. At some point, your life becomes the result of what you tolerated in yourself. You don't realize how much of your life is borrowed until you try to make a decision that's truly yours.